I'd like to discuss ambient occlusion in Mental Ray. You'll find that this shader is quite versatile, and it can be used as an alternative to GI and Final Gather. You can also use ambient occlusion to create a clay-like rendering. To begin this exploration, reopen the Solaire sample file. Right now this model is set up to use the scan line. Open the Render Scene dialog and set the output size to 640 by 480 and do a rendering. Save this on your hard drive and call it AO-1. That's for ambient occlusion. I'll save this as a JPEG. Now I'm going to change the production renderer to Mental Ray. Go to the Processing tab. There's an option right here that allows you to override all the materials in the scene. Enable this feature and click on this None button. Select the basic Mental Ray material, and now I'd like to edit it. Open the material editor and drag this material into the editor and instance it there. The Mental Ray material is nothing but a holder for the different channels. It's like a structure that doesn't have anything in it yet. Click on the Surface shader, which is the first None button right here, and the browser shows you a list of maps. Select the Ambient or Reflective Occlusion shader. Then go ahead and close this window and do a rendering. We're getting something that looks like a clay rendering. It's all white because this shader it's creating shadows in a sense because the interior areas are dark. They are occluded. This rendering is a bit grainy. We can improve the quality by going to the Renderer tab and changing the samples per pixel to different values. Ideally, we would also change the spatial contrast values. So a quick way of doing this is to use a preset. I'll use Mental Ray Daylighting High and choose the Renderer category only. That will enter new values for all of the sampling quality. I'll render again, and this time the quality will be much higher, and it will take longer to render. So this is a clay style rendering, and it's an alternative to using the light tracer and a skylight. This rendering time is 2 minutes and 12 seconds. Save the file on your hard drive as AO-2. Note that there is no indirect illumination being used here. Final Gather is off, and so are caustics and GI. The clay rendering is being calculated entirely by the ambient occlusion shader. Now you could stop there, but I'm going to take you on a step further. I've opened up Adobe Photoshop CS3 Extended, but this technique would work in many of the older versions of Photoshop. I'll open these two files. Use the Move tool and hold down the Shift key. drag this file into the other one. The Shift key ensures that they are stacked perfectly on top of each other. Now I can close this image. This document now has two layers. I'll open the Layers doc and you can see them. Change the blending mode of layer 1 to multiply. This means that the layer will only darken the pixels, so it's acting like a shadow layer. I'll use an adjustment layer to brighten things up. I'll use brightness contrast here. I'll increase the brightness a bit. So let's just take a look at what we have here. I'll make another layer and I'll press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E to stamp everything onto that layer. Now this isn't necessary, but I'm just doing it for this demo because I can turn off the other layers beneath it because all the pixels are on this layer now. Now I can make a more easy comparison between what we've done and where we started. So this is what we've done, and that's where we started with the scanline render. We've added a lot of depth and realism to the image without very much effort. So use ambient occlusion when you want to make a clay rendering, or use this compositing technique to quickly add realism to a scanline rendering.